Perfect, and now we are back. We've put this body mount on. It's the 4 screws right at the top, kind of hard to see there. Now let's look at the instructions and see what's next. So it looks like now we're going to be putting the A-arms together. So the right and left A-arms, and then we are going to be moving on to the rear axle carrier. Perfect. Let's put that all together. So in the diagram it shows us facing this way. So we'll start with that, get these wires out of the way. And there's the left side, here's the right side.
Just slide that right through. Oh, looks like I should put that into the back. Perfect. Now this one. Now screw those guys in.
Now we're gonna put this together. So looks like they're universal, so one for each side, doesn't matter. Then we're gonna open up the bearings. Let's be careful where these guys go. Don't want them to roll away. All right, looks like it's a double-sided. So these are weld made. They're going to be very sturdy. My guy seats right in. Next side as well. Let's put that guy in that side. Perfect. And then we do the same to the other side. Now we take one of these, also universal, doesn't matter what side, and we are going to put one of the washers on one side. Perfect. So one on this side. So drop one of them down, put this guy on, like so, and then drop the other one on top of there. And do the same for the other side. So we take one, drop it down, make sure you don't want to bend or tweak those guys. You want them nice and flush. There we have it. Alright, so those guys are complete. Now let's see what's next in store. Now what we do is we grab one of these pins, measure it up, make sure it's the right one. Drop the pin through the axle. Perfect. And it looks like we grab one of these and it should snap into place. It shows the snapping noise, so let's try that. There we go. Now I've got the axle and the hex and the axle carrier all put together. So you do the same for the other side. So now we're going to the next page. Let's check it out. So it looks like now we're going to connect them all together. The axles, the camber links. I'm going to put it all together for us. Let's go ahead and do that. Perfect, so now we pull these, see how the screws are fully seated in the back. Flip it around to, actually it looks like it's probably best to do it from this side for now. So we've got the axles, these, and we just plop these guys through. So you want to line up the axle shafts, Pop that guy in there. Line up this axle shaft as well. There we go. And now we want to take this size screw, we just line it up. Perfect. And we are going to drop this guy in through the back as well. The good thing about doing it through the back is a lot of the times if you have a screw facing the front, then a lot of the hexes get filled with dirt, and later on that's really hard to pick out and you end up stripping some screws that way. So a good design by Traxxas to hold the top hex in place. So we put that guy in through there and mount that right to like so. Then we take the 3x15 screw, put that in through the camber link, and that attaches to the axle housing. Perfect, so now all of that's done. Looks like the hex actually stays really straight up and down through the cycles. Looks like these A-arms are actually for a /4x4. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like you can add a sway bar in, which I remember was on my 4x4. Or if you do know what those items are for, it looks like it protects the universal joint here even. Like a little bit of a deflector. Let me know, comment below what you know that is. So I'm not entirely sure what that design's for. Alright, so now it looks like we're going to be adding the rear bumper. This little guy right here slips right onto the rear. Let's see, the long one actually goes down here. Alright. And then 3x30. Okay, that one looks like it goes on the higher one back here. Maybe. It says this is a wheelie bar mount, so I'm guessing you can get a wheelie bar for these. If you have a brushless system, that would be possible. I'm not too entirely sure how possible that would be with the brushed motor. The longest one's on the bottom, the medium one is right here, and then the shortest one is on the back side holding it in. So it's really strong on there. Alright, now that that's screwed on, it looks like we're going to be adding the rear bumper brace. So this is interesting. So this seems to go on to here. So I'm going to screw that in. Perfect. So now that we've screwed those in, it's going to have the 4 mounting points. I'm going to put those onto the bumper. That one's kind of obvious where it goes, but it doesn't exactly tell us, but it's pretty clear where those go to. So we're going to take these 4 screws, just going to put them right in and get them started. Perfect. So now the bumper is completely on. We did the 4 bolts. It really goes to show how strong this chassis is. Everything's triangulated, and even the A-arms are actually triangulated, so these should take some abuse. So a lot of the professional racers that race the full-size trucks, a lot of their chassis are triangulated, as they're a really strong design as to just making squares. So now it looks like we put the bottom skid plate that attaches and mounts to the body. So let's put that on. Flip it upside down, and that's also going to give some protection to our diff seal. So that actually slides sort of right in there. And you put it right in. It pops in. So it looks like the large ones are going to be the 4 on the bottom, and these 2 are going to be the ones at the back. So let's put those in. starting to get somewhere. You can even see the triangular there as well. Now, only one thing left to do for the rear end is add in the shocks. So let's put them in. So it shows the flat part is where the screw is going to go in. So shorter one up top, like so, and longer one on the bottom. So let's put that guy in. Perfect. Now the suspension is in. I put it on the highest setting because I plan on doing a lot of jumps with it. So I want as much travel as possible and as much ground clearance, so ride height. So we'll see how that looks when a body's on it. But for now, that's complete. So now we are going to begin building the front end. There you go. Alrighty, now it is time to build the front end. So front suspension, here we come. There we are. Looks like all the camber, toe-in adjustments, all those links. Wheel housing. Let's see. More bearings. Lots of screws. The A-arms. Body post mount. That's a bit interesting. It's like a shiny plastic, a little different from the rest of them. Alrighty, let's grab the pieces that it says for us to use. Let's check it out. So it says start with this guy. Alright. So we need the front bulkhead. There's that guy. Then we need the front shock tower. That's this guy. So it looks like that guy goes in like so. Alright. Perfect. So now that that guy's on, we'll move on to the next step. If you are planning on doing a kit, I would highly recommend getting a proper screwdriver style one. It takes a while to start the thread and everything with this little guy. You can't get much pressure on it, so it takes me a little while. So if you see me cutting out, that's why. Perfect. So now the top is on. Now we just need to take the two small screws provided and we put the body towers in. Now that we have the body mounts on, it is time to install the front camber links. So that's in this bag. We're just going to cut it right open. And let's separate it from the screws pile. So we'll put it over on this side. There we go. Now there's another certain way of doing it. So perfect. So the camber links are on, and I do like how they're exactly the right measurement, so I don't have to mess with any of the camber or toe in and try and set up the alignment. So that's nice. On to the next step. Looks like we are going to be installing the front A-arms and a tie bar assembly. So let's get right to it. So it looks like it wants us to do front A-arms part first. And one thing I did notice with these A-arms, it's a really sturdy design, double sheared mounts for the suspension. So that should prove to stand the test of time, which we know from my past slash. So let's put it all together. Tie bar and these suspension pins. So that's an interesting design. Let's see where that goes. So the pins go in all the way through. And this one as well. Let's see if I can get that for you. Perfect. And then it looks like this little white plastic piece almost looks 3D printed, a little weird, but that goes in right at the very front of the assembly. So let's put that through clips. So that's interesting. So it's not going to be a standard screw-in design like the rear was. It's going to be made with these little tiny C-clips. So you do not want to lose these. These will go flying if they're not fully seated. So let's go ahead and put those on. Perfect. So now that the C-clips are in, we move on to the next thing. Those honestly weren't as bad as I was concerned they would be. They seem to actually pop right into place, so that's nice. We'll move on to the next thing. Perfect. So now it looks like we're going to be assembling these guys. They're called the steering blocks. So we need to grab our bearing bag, lots of different spacers and washers. So again, this is not a part of the build that you want to take a break on and just leave these parts laying around. You don't want to lose any of these. So there we have it. Now let's punch these guys in. Here's the first one. And you just do the back side. Perfect. So that guy's in like so. And you're going to grab one of these parts. So it is two-wheel drive, so this one doesn't have any power going to it, so it just holds in the back there. But you're going to want to put those metal spacers on them, or the washer. Let that seat all the way at the back. Put this guy through like so. And then you want to put another one of those spacers on the end of that. There we go. Now you look for the pin. Check it for size. Pop that guy right through there. If it's far enough through, then it should let it go. So then what we do is once that pin's in, we're just going to go ahead and pop the hex on. You should hear a snap again. Let's put that in. There we go. The hex is on. Now, sheared points shows how strong this build's going to be, and even double sheared here as well. So these actually go in sideways from what I'm used to and rest just like that. And the pin is going to come up from the bottom, holding that whole assembly in place. Perfect. So now that you put the longer one in through the bottom here, now you're going to actually attach it to the assembly itself. So you put that guy right on the one side, like so. Align that up. And you take this guy and you put him right through the front. So let's go ahead and line those up. Perfect. So now you basically screw in the link and you have to put a nut on the back side of it. So let's go ahead and use this tool. And we just go ahead and screw in the nut.
Simple enough. I'm just going to give it just that.
Perfect. So now that those are in place, another great design by Traxxas that the nut is actually in the front and not the Allen key hex, because these can fill up with dirt if they're facing the front. So it's nice that they put the nut on the front of it so that doesn't fill up. So on to the next page. Let's see what we have to build next. Alright, so now it looks like we are getting into the steering assembly. This should be interesting. What's going on here? So it should be fun. Let's see how this goes. Alrighty, so it looks like we completely disregard this for now, and we are going to be just focusing on this piece right here. Now, there are quite a few pieces. That's next, and up top here as well. Alright, make sure those are fully set in there, okay? Now it looks like we do the smallest one. One of these little guys. Very small. Alright, so we set those up. And then it's going to be these screws from the top. Alright, so there we go. And there we go. So here we have it. We've screwed that in. One thing that I thought was a bit odd was it has a Phillips screw, and they didn't include that. But then I realized that this actually fits right on there as it's a hex. So when you get to that point, just use this guy. Don't make the same mistake I did. This gives you a lot more cranking power than the screwdriver. Perfect, so now we install the steering linkages. Let's go ahead and do those. So it looks like it wants the flattest part to be the actual nut itself. So this bolt's going to be going in from the bottom, the screw, should I say. Let's put that guy through. Perfect, so that side is in. You can see the nut is holding it on there. Now we just need to connect the linkage to this side in the same manner. Screw from the bottom, nut on the top. Perfect, so now the steering linkages is done. Now I just need to add the link that connects to the servo, but there you go. I also like how this design has all the steering in the rear, so it doesn't end up, it's another sort of protection against the elements. So it's hidden back there. And now we just connect the servo rod and the servo saver. So let's connect those guys in. Alrighty, so the steering assembly is done. Servo saver is installed. I did notice on the instructions it doesn't show which way in the picture, but you're supposed to have the toothed side up top. So now we get to install the bumper. Perfect, now that the bumper is on, the front is pretty much complete. All we need to do now is we just need to install the suspension. Now one thing I did notice, and I did look over my work area, is I have 2 screws left for the bottom of the suspension, but I don't have the top 2. So that's a bit odd. If I do find them, I'll let them know in the video, but maybe they're not, maybe they weren't packaged, so that's a bit annoying, but oh well. I do have a few of these left over from other kits that I've put together, so I'm sure we'll be able to find the right one for it. But let's install the bottom at least for now. So I'm going to put in the first one because I want as much travel as possible and the most ground clearance for off-road. So we'll go ahead and install that now.